the last piece we need.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't have to paint it, but might as well, because it'll be out there kind of in the front, out over the header.
Race car.
Race car. Didn't really have to make it where it was a weld-on bracket, but that's what we did because, at least for us, that was quicker than fabricating something that bolted on, you know, to like the screws under here. Just a little more right on the top there. Yeah. And it's supposed to crinkle up. Like, that's the textured stuff.
I mean, it's crinkling, but not as much as that is.
Yeah, but it doesn't jump out at you that it's way different. Cool. So the only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is the throttle body height. So the cold air kit may not work out the same. That I'm not sure about. But we are going to get back here and start, well, gotta put that back on. But we're gonna get back here and start swapping that out. Hopefully everything fits. I think I may have to grind the edge of the nitrous plate just a little bit because you can see maybe down there that it's a little bit thicker, like kind of below where it bolts to the flange. But anyways, let's get this thing put on and make some more noise. All right, we've got a time-lapse video in a dyno video. That's something new we're trying. So a few people along the way have kind of had some commentary on how hard it is to work on the engine because the crazy header's all in the way and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Well, the header literally takes about 15 minutes to take off of the car if you need to get in and work on, you know, the intake manifold like we're doing now. It would also help to take the header off to work under the valve covers, but we were able to take the valve covers off with the old engine to, you know, check on things after we made a couple of runs. But, you know, these things with a hydraulic roller camshaft in them, they typically don't need a whole lot of maintenance in the valve train. The BTR cam that I put in it, I had custom spec'd for really good stability at high RPM. I had told Nick from BTR that I intended to turn this thing past 9,000 RPM, and he told me it probably wouldn't make horsepower up there, but that the valve control would be good enough to attempt it. So later in this video, that just may happen, not to give away all the secrets of the video, but you know, we've got a shot, we've got the parts designed for it, maybe we will. But anyways, I wanted to include this time lapse to show you guys some of the procedure of testing parts. You know, it's not always just a remove and replace. We ended up having to fabricate a throttle bracket, which you saw earlier in the video. Well, now we're moving the injectors over to the new intake manifold, which oddly enough required a different O-ring on the bottom of the injector. Didn't expect that, so we had to go scrounge up some O-rings from some of our different O-ring kits. And actually, I have a few different kits in stock for different injector O-rings for just such an issue. So we were able to fix that, and then we drilled and tapped the fuel rail to install the fuel pressure sensor in the fuel rail. And on the old intake and on this intake, I'm actually doing it between cylinders on the driver's side fuel rail between cylinders 1 and 3. And it's a little bit of a snug fit in there, but we worked it out where we think it's going to fit. So Ricky is drilling and tapping that fuel rail, and then we'll put a 45-degree brass fitting in it that goes from male 1/8 inch NPT to female 1/8 inch NPT, screw the sensor in it, and then plug the sensor in. It's kind of nice because it tucks it under the intake manifold, which does protect it from the heat of the header just a little bit. But, you know, it's all kind of part of this process of getting the thing swapped over to test the new intake manifold. And sometimes things go the way you plan them to. But as it goes with most things modified car-wise, it kind of seems like there's always a monkey wrench thrown into the situation, and you got to just work through it. We also ended up needing to kind of grind on the bottom corner of the throttle body flange on the BTR intake, because it would have worked fine if we were only using a throttle body. But because we added NOS's very, very thin nitrous plate to it, we had to grind on the corner of the throttle body flange just a little bit. Now, some nitrous plates are the same thickness all the way through them, like something probably like 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch thick. Well, this nitrous plate is really, really thin, except for on the base of the intake manifold. Now, on the old intake, it didn't have a problem fitting, but on this intake, it did. One other thing we had to remake was the fuel line to connect between the fuel rails. The BTR throttle body flange is lower. It comes off at a more straight angle off the front of the plenum. So the fuel rail from the fuel line to connect the fuel rails from the sheet metal intake didn't work. So we ended up having to remake that. And once we get all of that done, we think we're ready to put this thing back on and fire it up. We think.
Well, like most things modified car related, it always takes longer than you think. And you may have seen that Ricky was grinding on the bottom of the intake there at the end of the time lapse. Had to get clearance for the throttle body there, or the nitrous plate there. We had to drill and tap this, and I mean, look at how close that is to fitting that in there. Had to remake the fuel line. Had to change the O-rings out for a different size.
Had to machine these.
Had to machine these down because they were too long and bottoming out. Had to custom paint the Made in the USA logo.
Woo!
And check out how the paint turned out on the throttle bracket there, except for where it peeled a little bit. We won't talk about that though. Nobody saw that, okay?
Look at that throttle bracket.
Yep, nobody saw that. It's gonna be a nice tight fit over the top of the intake manifold there. And if you've seen me walking in and out of frame while the time lapse was going, I've been trying to find a stretch belt that would fit around just the crank and the alternator. So couldn't find anything there. So then it turned into needing to get, maybe I can get one that'll go around the crank, under the idler, back up and over, and then around the alternator and around. Because there's ranges of belts where you just cannot accomplish what you need with the belt lengths that are available. Okay, that made sense. So here's our spark plugs from the tuning we've done so far. All real happy, I think. Not a timing mark on them, so I'm real happy with that. We will put all this back together, and then the next clip we're going to be running, getting ready to dyno again, and I am going to put the full length belt back on for the first couple of pulls, at least until it pitches it again, and then we'll make a pull with no changes and show what the eliminating the water pump does on a car like this. So we already have the Davies Craig electric water pump down there that was kind of set up to be a helper for if this thing did pitch the belt. Gonna focus phone, there we go. So we're just gonna run it without the belt on the water pump. And I wonder how many people at LS Fest and other events are going to be like, your belt's not on the water pump. How's that work? But we'll leave it all assembled, and maybe we'll even keep the long belt with us just in case we want to go drive around. And I don't know, we'll see. See how well the Davies Craig keeps up pushing through the factory water pump. That may be a little weird, but anyways, back to work to put this thing on. It's definitely a good looking intake manifold, I will say that. Especially with the old custom painted logo on the back of it. All right, enough talking, back to work.
Well, at the end of that little live segment, I thought we were about 30 minutes from getting the intake completely bolted on and the header back on and running again on the dyno. Well, you can already see we attempted to test fit the intake manifold and it didn't fit. Now, we had test fit this thing while the engine was still on the stand to make sure that it fit, but one thing we didn't factor in was the vacuum lines off the back of the intake manifold interfering with our AccuSump line that plumbs into where the factory oil pressure sender goes on the back, you know, on the back of the top of the block back there on an LS. So we make the decision to take the intake runners off, which you can see how the BTR plenum is just laying there. We took the runners off because we knew we were about to drill a hole, well, drill 2 holes in the top of the back of the intake manifold plenum to drill and tap it for both 1/4 inch NPT and 1/8 inch NPT. No, I think we did 1/4 and 3/8 NPT so that we could run our vacuum lines to the top of the intake manifold and just put plugs in the back there where the factory vacuum ports are. Now, this would have fit if we didn't have all this custom stuff on the back of the engine with the AccuSump and the firewall being really close. This intake fits really well on F-bodies like Camaros and Firebirds with an LS in them, and also it will fit under the cowl on a Corvette from what I'm told, like the C5 and C6 Corvettes. So, you know, live and learn. A little bit of you know, 1 step forward, 3 steps back, to then take 4 steps forward to get this thing installed and back on the car so that we can fire this thing up and finish our intake test. It's been a struggle, but we are going to get this thing beat, and we're about to make some awesome noises all over again.
Woo! Finally! That thing about whooped our butt.
Yeah.
So it ended up being that our vacuum lines hit at the back. So we ended up drilling and tapping them at the top of the intake manifold, because this intake is actually designed for like F-bodies, Corvettes that have a really low hood, especially like high RPM boosted combinations. So we'll see how it does in a high RPM naturally aspirated combination. But we ended up having to remake the outlet of the water pump. Thought we could find another water pump. Yep, we still got a gap there. A little close, but we got a gap. And it's only gonna work out as the belt tensions. And the idea, I think I have a stretch belt that's gonna fit around just the bottom there. So if I can make a couple of pulls, verify that get a A to B comparison on just the intake swap, then we can do the belt swap and see how much it picks up removing the water pump. We got a glimpse of it on that last dyno pull, but now we're going to find out what it will do for the entire pull. So let's see if this thing will fire up. Huh? Yeah, we're not doing that yet. Let's see what happens. We're keyed on and park. Got that off. Yay, it still runs! All right, time for a pull. And I ended up not changing the timing from where I had it with the last intake because the spark plugs look so happy. So we're gonna go ahead and make a run with it just like it was. We got some temperature and everything. I let the wheels spin. I still expect that it might not be, like I might have to do 2 pulls to get the drive line fully warmed up. But we'll see just what happens with a pull. I think I'll run it to 8,000. See what happens. It picked up. Woo-hoo. I see it picking up top. 372 already. Oh no, 367. All right, it picked it up a lot up top, and that's like we're gonna I need to look at the data log. Oil pressure, the oil's definitely thicker because it was making 130 pounds of oil pressure instead of 105 like it was on the last pull. Is it zoomed in?
No, it's not.
Whoops, might have been looking up my nose. But was it good?
Yeah. Oh, it sounded so good. Even from over there. Through the wall.
Alright, time for me to get out of this hot thing and look at some dyno number or some data. Alright, so we picked up 14 horsepower out past 7,000 RPM, and that was with cold engine oil. So I'm expecting this time for it to pick up the whole curve a little bit, which would be awesome. So got it cooled back down again, same temperature we had to start the last pull. Here we go. Up as much as I thought.
471.
Yeah, picked up just a little bit. You can even see it down there through the middle with the red line.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's look at some dyno numbers. So red was the last pull with the new BTR intake. See, it's up like 7-ish down there. But the red and the blue have the same ignition timing, but the oil is definitely a little cooler still on the red pull. So we're a little bit better there, we're about even here. And then up here is where the intake really shines. So that's 56 to 71. Is that 14? $52 to, that's 17 better there. And then the blue line here is where it threw the belt off of it. So I'm gonna make another run, just leaving it alone to see if the warmer oil and the warmer transmission fluid and rear end fluid, see if all that makes a difference. Alright, so another new best run. It's kind of hard to see the orange line, but picked up another 3 or 4 up top to make a peak of 474.66. I think we've proven that the intake is quite a bit, it's better everywhere, like even all the way down at the very bottom. This down here is just me hitting the throttle at different, like starting the run at different RPM. See, somewhere right around 3,000 is where I'm starting it. But it gets a lot better above 7,000 RPM. All right, so same engine tune-up, no belt on the water pump or the idler, just around the alternator. So we'll let Ricky get out of the way. You're about to get blasted with exhaust.
What?
About to crank it up.
Oh.
Told you it'd pick up 15 with the belt off of it.
Hit it with nitrous, we need 500.
It'll go 600 on nitrous. 491 horsepower.
491.
Oh, this is gonna make 500.
That was with
no
just
belt.
driving the alternator. That's pretty wild for just dropping the belt off of it. Shows you how much horsepower your water pump can be eating up.
Who
So-
needs those?
Huh?
Who needs those?
Well, we've got an electric
All
one.
electric.
We're good. So, I've been lifting at like 82. I've got to at least see one run over 9,000.
Yes! Yes! 9,000.
So, I took my timing wall out that was at 85 before, extended it out to where it doesn't start pulling timing out until after 91. Here comes the noise. Let's hope everything stays in it. And
beware headphone users.
yeah, beware headphone users, for sure. So I also put an extra degree of timing in all the way down here to see what it does for the tune-up. See if it'll poke over 500. I don't think it's going to get there, but it's so excruciatingly close. That's with a 92 millimeter throttle body on it too. With that much power, it could be worth trying a large throttle body. We could even just dump the intake too. But if it sucks something in it, I would be very sad.
Yeah, let's let it be, make it LS fast, get back from LS
Yeah.
fast, turn it up for a burnout ride.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't need this much power for burnouts anyway, really. In fact, before it even goes on the pad, I'm going to pull 2 degrees of timing out of it just to be extra safe. Because this is already more power than I had last year on the nitrous, and I still have nitrous to go on top of this. So this thing would poke over 600 if I turn the nitrous on, but I think I'm gonna chicken out on that. See, everything's going so good. The event is so close, but yet I am about to poke it over 9,000. Hopefully everything's still good after this run. All right, here we go. It's still running. Look at the horsepower too. 495.
495.
So that was with one more degree of timing. One more may get it to 500.
Did it?
It did not like 9,000.
Yeah, no, it didn't.
But did it sound good?
It did. That's all that matters, really. Like,
I'm still zoomed in so I can see your nose hairs. Oh, it's so close to 500. I saw 9 on the screen. We'll see what it actually was. 9112. I stepped off right at 9,000.
yeah, you did.
I stepped on it, made 9112. Shoo!
I think you need to just take it to an even number.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. I mean, you can
No,
tell it's unhappy.
It's not happy.
Yeah, it
for
loses
sure.
50 horsepower between 85 and 9.
Yeah.
But it wants to be shifted to like 8,500 on the drag strip.
Yeah. That's wild. It's wild that it makes all that power up there.
Yeah.
Like 7,300 RPM.
I gotta put one more degree on it and see if it'll go 500. 500!
You're gonna take it back out?
No, I put a degree in and it picked up 4.
No, I mean like you're gonna put another degree in to make it make 500.
I'm
Or
gonna-
are you gonna take it back out or leave it there?
I'll get it over 5. I'll take, from whatever its peak is, I'm gonna take 2 out
Oh, okay.
on the burnout pad. All right, I couldn't stand it. It's so close. So I put a fan on the intake manifold to try and cool the intake down, since those other pulls are pretty quick, back to back to back to back to back. Let's see if a little bit cooler intake gets it there, but I do have to be quick. Because otherwise it's just gonna heat soak from the engine. I trimmed the fuel just a little bit in some spots, like nothing crazy, no timing changes. It's barely better. 500 and a half.
500.5.
Woo! All right, that was worth it. All right, I'm done with this thing. Yeah, done with it. So that's gonna do it for this video, but we've got one more big project for this thing before LS Fest. Probably an idiot for trying to do it this late, but we're gonna see if we can make it happen, and we'll bring you guys along for the ride next week in another video, and it's a big change. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you then.